Hello, today I'll be showing you a doctrine tutorial. Yes, doctrines, right? Yeah, so what I'm gonna be showing you is with this research, right? So I've researched stuff that you normally have for your tanks, like gun 2, at least 2 of these maybe. They're pretty good small buffs, but they're still worth it. Depending on what you go for, from maintenance, logistics, signal on top of the recon, and the engineer company. Engineers is like a must for every template you have because of the buffs they give. They're always worth having your tanks, for example. Yeah, today we're going to do a doctrine tutorial, and the research tanks are going to be the medium 3 and the heavy 3. And you're going to be seeing the stats for the heavy 3 and medium 3. And this first one will be using mobile doctrine. Yes, so I'm gonna be going over some of the perks and the pros and cons of each tank, right? So to start off with, we have the standard template you usually see for mobile. So usually I go for something like this for Barb or France. But for France, I usually only have about this because researching logistics for France, not really needed because you're not gonna have logistics problems in France. It also brings down your org, so you see, just from removing that, you see if we save this template, by removing it, you gain almost 2 org, and the org matters with the mobile, because you go mobile for the speed, for the org, for the breakthrough, you'll have enough of any help, but like, it's not worth having logistics for France. Although in Russia, if you take attrition, you can take up to like 10% combat penalties. And losing 10% combat like 10% of all your stats from just having like not enough supply, it's usually not worth it. So what you do is your fuel usage goes down, because if you run out of fuel, your tanks becomes useless, and your supply usage overall goes down by 20%, and for each upgrade you do, goes down another 10%. So this is the second logistics, so it's minus 20%. Production wise, it's very worth getting for your tanks. Maintenance, if you're fighting a heavy tank Russia, for example, it could be worth putting in, but if I do heavy tank Germany, I usually don't want to. It brings down your org a bit, and if we save this, right, if we put this in, it brings down armor and such. Like, you are probably gonna face a heavy tank Russia multiplayer. That is the current meta, probably gonna stay the current meta. I've seen a lot of mediums lately, but heavies are definitely the stronger choice in my opinion. But if you want to do a template like such for Russia, you could do this, right? So if you save this template, right, you see you have 47 org. It's pretty good, and this is just the Russia template, right? So what you could do if you want to bring up your stats, these are heavies without upgrades even. So to bring up your stats, you could delete one and bring in another tank. You'll go up stats a bit, right? But the thing is, the stats in HOI4 are always modified a lot. So for example, when you go up in 30 heart attack, with bonuses it can go up to actually about 300 heart attack instead of the 30. Like, you can have bonuses with planning bonus, your generals, your traits, that brings the 32 up to over 300 more. So it always depends on what you want, but usually battles don't last long enough, in my opinion, for you to benefit from having the extra 30 heart attack. I usually go with the extra mech, and I bring out the tank, because it brings up your HP, and HP is so fucking important. I don't like... Okay, so your entire template, like HP, if you lose equipment in your division, the lower HP you have, the more you'll lose in a battle, right? So, for example, maintenance could be good if you have low, if you bring out even down to 6, which I don't recommend, because you have a lot of pretty shitty HP. Like, it goes down, you see, instead of 270, 270, you now have 215. It is quite a large difference. You're almost down to like 4/5 so what you originally had, which, I mean, yes, your stats came up 65 heart attack and 50 soft attack, basically. Breakthrough doesn't matter, you have enough at this point. With all the modifiers, you're gonna have way more than enough. But the thing is, these are pretty good stats, and your armor will go up a lot. If you go for a medium Russia, if the Russia goes for mediums, this might be viable. This might be viable, because this also brings up your reliability in the division. And if you have high reliability, you're not as prone to lose stuff, right? And, you know, HP matters a lot. Not a lot of people touch on it, but you know, cast in a battle, if you have low HP, you're gonna take so much more damage from the cast hurting your HP in the battle. If you're in a battle, the cast hurts your org and it hurts your HP. So the same goes for the medium, same template. If you're up against a heavy tank Russia in your Germany, you might want to put a heavy tank destroyer in there to bring up the piercing to enough. To pierce the Russia, but if they go max armor heavy 3s, you're not, and mechanized, you're not going to be able to do anything anyhow. Really, like, what you can do though, this is where HP comes in, right? If they went for you not being able to pierce them, they went with 7 or even 6 mechanized instead. The HP will be low enough, so after 1 to 2 battles, their HP will have gone down, so their stats and their armor have gone down. So you will actually be able to pierce them after 2 battles then, which is pretty amazing, right? So even though you're not able to pierce them the first 2 battles, if you keep them going so they lose HP, which could be hard with the entrenched Russians heavy tanks on their force tile, but if you do, then if you bring their HP down to the point where their armor isn't enough, right? Because the equipment isn't in the actual division because they lost much, you know? Then you might actually be able to pierce them. And this has happened to me so many times. I used to go for builds where I went 70 medium tanks for Barbarossa versus the Russians having, you know, almost 30 heavies or something, you know, and then I used to go with very good Russians with this strat, and they go out, they're cocky because you're medium tanks, you can't pierce them. They go out, you get a good battle in, their HP goes down, you see they're like 96% equipped, you pierce them, boom, out of fucking nowhere you pierce them. And if you don't pierce someone, you get a huge debuff. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's basically them not deorging, you deorging, and you know, with no org you don't fight, and that's where org comes into play, right? So medium tanks with TDs could work. Definitely. This is what many Russians have started doing now, and it does work, because when Germany's attritioning, you also get pierced more easily, and also after a few battles, when you're also attritioning, etc., you can actually get pierced as Germany. Even while going 6 mechanized and the rest heavies with the max armor, you can get pierced. So it definitely depends on the environment and everything, but it is a viable strat. Yes, so to counter the allies, yes. So as Germany, if allies are good, you're never gonna winner. This doesn't go for every mod, but in vanilla, this is probably the case. So what you can do, what you should do, is to put into SBA. I just went with the same amount of mechanized because you want to have a high org versus, you know, allies that have cast. That's gonna bring your HP and org down a lot. So you'll lose way less equipment going with more mech. I wouldn't recommend going something like 9 or 10 mechanized, because you still want to have the stats to be able to push them, because allies can get OP Marines, they can actually get decent tanks out. You have the trades as Germany usually, from grinding in Spain, from grinding all your wars, but that usually doesn't help when the allies have pretty 6 modifiers, like the UK having a 20% combat modifier for just their Marines from picking a guy in their staff. So, you know, then the Marines can actually have like up to 2k defense, 1,200 soft attack. You still need to be able to push them. So what I recommend is probably this template for the allies. You don't need logistics for the allies. That is not needed. And if the allies are doing heavy tanks in the D-Day, and you also don't want to get cast a shit ton, that may be maintenance. But usually you want to produce more heavy tanks in air. So usually I don't personally have enough to put in maintenance, but that is definitely up to every Germany themselves, right? But what is always a must, basically, is a recon company. I went with the motorized one because it gives you... Okay, if I go with the normal one, what you'll see here is that it brings down the stats, right? Minus 11 defense, you get less reconnaissance, and reconnaissance is good for you performing better in battles. Your speed gets down a lot more, right? So with the mobile, this is basically the strat. And for superior, I'd say even the same, right? Like, it is always worth going to motorized recon company for a lot of stuff. Like, your speed, your everything basically. So it makes up for a lot, and you get extra reconnaissance, and producing a bit of motorized, which is 20 per division, is not a lot. It is really not a lot. So I'd recommend you do this because it's very much well worth to do it. Same template, same template for the medium tanks. You go for, oh yeah, well, you go for medium tanks with the same template. SPA is 1 combat width, so it is the same, but you know, with 2 SPA. 2 SPA brings down the cast damage on you a lot. You shoot down casts, and you know, it's really beneficial, and it's pretty cheap to put in. So every decent Germany you'll see will have this in the template, you know. Some Germanies decide to go for more air, but I see why instead is a big waste, because these two guys basically make you not immune to air, but essentially immune to air. So they're really good to go for. Yeah, so let's move on to Superior Firepower. Yes, and if I forgot to mention, you should go right mobile. You get the awesome tactics here, you get 50% tactics movement, you get attack your damage and stuff. From this side though, yeah, I mean, you get a bit worse tactics, you get more org, but in the end of the day, I would definitely rather go for these tactics and go for the stuff on the right side. Usually benefits you more in the long run, and you know, go right mobile, you get the second breakthrough buff here. There's a strat where you go down left-right, but for France, if you have a really good France, I'd definitely say right is better with the mobile, because the extra breakthrough for France, if France goes heavy tanks, is very much needed. If you don't have enough breakthrough, you'll do way faster, and yeah, well, basically now that is the best way to go. So for superior, you go right 2 for infantry. So for the templates regarding superior power, they're way better for infantry, for example. Yeah. So while going right superior firepower, you'll be having way better infantry. So for example, this 14.4 very cheap production cost actually. Like it. Okay, so for a big frontline, you cannot do 14.4. It's not in vanilla. You do not have enough production to do that, and air and tanks. That is not possible. At least in multiplayer. In single player, you could definitely roll with the 14.4. You can take over the entire world probably with 14.4s. It is very much easier. So for a proper 14.4 template, this is what you should have in it. Just 14 infantry. That is what the 14 stands for. 4 stands for 4 artillery. So you want to have engineer companies for the bonuses you get from all the battles. If you want to see here, you get 20% attack on forest tiles, defense on forest tiles. You get so many buffs from going engineer companies. That is very much needed, since you see all the terrain. You don't see many playing tiles here. Like maybe some stuff in France, but like the majority of the world as a whole has other terrains, and you don't get a debuff from having this on plain tiles. So they're very much worth going for, and as you go along, you can get bonuses from going across rivers, from stuff like that. Support artillery, very much worth it if you see for your firepower. I would recommend it, especially for 14.4 like this. If you pull this one out, just that one, you get 30 less soft attack base. That is way more when you put it in later. You get a bit more, but that doesn't matter. 1.6 org as an infantry unit does not matter. That you push with another 30 soft attack plus planning bonus plus air support is much more worth a while. And for support company, you want to have the recon company also. You don't really want to go with the motorized recon company here. You could do that, right? But it doesn't bring up your speed. It brings up reconnaissance 0.5, but it's for your infantry. Brings up 11 defense. As a whole, your infantry does not matter enough for you to put another 20 motorized in it. It just doesn't, like, it's not worthwhile. You want to have in support AA. Support AA removes a lot of the penalties and the damage cast does to you, right? So if the enemy is complete air superiority, I would even recommend you pull out a infantry and you put 2 AA in. What you could also do is put 1 infantry, and you put 15 infantry through artillery and 1 AA. This is a good template for D-Day wall to put on ports. You have a lot of air attack. You even have some hard attack. Not that that really matters, but definitely, like, it is a worthwhile division to put on D-Day ports. You only get 12 less soft attack. You get, like, better stats overall, really. This is not that great of a pushing division, really, but I'd really say it matters, though. Like, this is a good division for having a DD wall with superior firepower. And last but not least, definitely not least, is signal companies. Signal companies help you so much. So, you know, when you're in a battle and you see your divisions are in the same tile, but they're not going into the battle. They're not actually in the battle if you click on the bubble, right? So initiative is what makes you reinforce. Like, basically, yes. So it says here, right? The higher the initiative a unit has, the quicker it can reinforce a battle, and the quicker it gets its planning done. So you get planning done faster, and you get your divisions into the battle faster, which is very worth it. With the division you won in a battle like this, almost 600 defense with the full doctrine, and quite a bit of soft attack still. And you're sitting fully entrenched on the data wall, these stats are going to be much higher, up to like, well, a lot more, trust me. And last bit, yeah, maybe at least, for infantry at least, you have the 20 width, right? So for a 20 width, having 160 soft attack, that's pretty fucking decent. So what you want to go right also is if you have 20 with spam, which is the most common in multiplayer, right? And you put one support artillery, right? Like, that gives you a lot of soft attack with all the bonuses you get in battle. So 160 almost, bringing it down to 130-ish if you bring it out, right? With all the modifiers, it matters. And you can deorg enemy 20 wits even with pushing like this. So if you have gun 2 in your divisions, in your 20 wits, they can, and already 1 even, you can actually push enemy 20 wits with using this template. Also great for holding. Will entrench your attack and defense stats, go up a bunch. With just a 20 width, you can have up to like 800 defense, 400 attack in a good battle, and a 4-style entrenched. It really matters, but it really depends. I mean, yeah, so for 20 widths though against the allies, you definitely want to go with something like this. Signals are not worth it because signals cost too much. For 20 width, you're gonna have hundreds of, like, to even, you know, reproduction worthwhile, right? So I'd say you go A in this, but what I usually end up doing, because I don't have enough artillery for all my guys, is that I remove this support A here, so I have enough for either for the 40 widths, or I just delete the 40 widths to have more of these. Because if you look here, this one with 1 support artillery costs 12 artillery, right? Which is, you know, not a lot. But if you go over to the 40 width, it costs 156 artillery. You can get a bunch of those 20 widths with support artillery with that. But if you're just looking to have a really strong data wall, you can fit in enough 40 widths, which I've tried. Didn't work out great, but you know, if you want to try that, this also works. But what will happen most of the time is that the allies land, you can't really push their OP, like, very much better marines back with these templates, so you're just gonna have to rely on your tanks. Yes, and for your tanks, you definitely want to go right, left superior firepower. The reason is you get a lot more hard attack, and not a lot more soft attack, but you do get 10% more on top of your upgraded tanks and you know, gun 2, etc. It becomes a lot. The game is all about stacking modifiers essentially. So when you have the additional 20% hard attack, you're gonna see the stats come up a lot. So you still get breakthrough from this. You'll have enough breakthrough. Mobile is into the reason you go breakthrough for, you know. You get enough breakthrough from Superior 2. The reason is sometimes you don't have enough breakthrough with Superior. Good rushes can have 4,000 soft attack on a fucking entrenched forest tile, and that is not as easily breakable with Superior as it is with the mobile, because you have way more org. You can org cycle way better with the mobile against good rushes like that, and that is why I usually go mobile in multiplayer. Superior though, great choice for single player or a more low level multiplayer game. Also very fun to play Superior. You don't really have to, with mobile, if you want to push something, you have to wait for planning bonus to properly push it, right? So you don't really have to do that with Superior because you have all your stats at the start off. But with the additional planning bonus, you'll get even more stats. You can have insane stats with Superior, although I do prefer mobile currently in the mod I play, Horst. Shout out to Horst. Because it does provide better modifiers in battle, in my opinion. So, yeah, basically let's go over the stats. Literally the same templates as with mobile. Although you want to have as many support companies as possible. You see this template has 36, so you remember the old templates of the mobile had like 50-ish, which is a bit good, you know? But what happens, you can't pull out mechanized in this. That's what you can do in mobile, right? If it happens, you are doing mediums. If the enemies do mediums, you want to go heavies and not be pierceable. That is not really doable with a superior, because when you pull out, for example, 2 mechanized, you pull in another 2 tanks. You'll go all the way down to, well, you still have 30 orc. That is true, but your HP still very, very bad right this. You have way better, modifiers for the starting. If you just switch the template, right? The base stats of the template will be way higher. So I mean, yes, you could do the very expensive template. You definitely want to go with these though, because if I save this and we try to delete the support company, right? You see the org goes down a bit, right? And if I delete another one, you see the org goes down even more. And if I delete another one, you see the org goes down even more. And if I keep on doing this, you're gonna see the org goes down. Well, not a lot, but it still goes down quite a bit. So you definitely want to go with something like this. No. I'd still recommend you go 12-8 for Russia, but against the allies, again, you do want to go with mediums are the same. You want to go for high org, still superior, but you get better stats. But against the allies, you definitely want to go with the SPA, and SPA is so worthwhile. Without any upgrades, you have 88 fire attack, which is gonna shred any cast you come up against the allies, really. Unless it's cast 3 and upgraded, you're gonna not feel any cast damage, really. Upgraded cast 2 could do some damage to you, but go and cast and multiplayer is mostly for you to have the attack bonus from air support, not as much as hurting the enemy. But if you wanna, if you're up against a Russia, for example, who has a lot of 20 with spam and heavies, and you can go through him quickly, right? So what you can do is like, you see has only infantry here. If you wanna break that and quickly spread out, cast is definitely the way to go. You get so many bonuses from going cast. The enemy gets speed debuff. They'll get slower, right? Well, you get faster. So what is good about it is that they won't get as much time to react. You get in there, if you medium tanks, what has happened to me a bazillion times, right? You go in, you have the cast, and you spread out so quickly. You have so many modifiers from the air too. It doesn't matter if they shoot down some cast. If you have enough casts, you're gonna have the modifiers all the way to where your cast is basically dead. You can put the cast down at any point you want, right? Your AC is probably gonna be Hungary multiplayer, sometimes Bulgaria. You can tell them when to put up the cast. If you're like, okay, now is a go, we're gonna go here now, we're gonna be pushing Russia, trying to spread out quickly, and with heavy tanks it's really hard to counter a very fast spread out of medium tanks. What you could do though is Russia is just to counterattack the tile they get in with, and then they're encircled, right? But like, most of the time, you're not just gonna rush in all your tanks without, protecting this properly. So, definitely is a valid strat going cast mediums, but if you're up against good Russia, you might get right-clicked anyhow. But it depends. Yeah, and for the medium, you also want to go with the SPA, and this is a great template against the allies. Usually, D-Days can get very much pushed back with this, but if the allies are really good and they land tanks properly at the proper time, and they get the proper, momentum to push out the D-Day, you can't really do anything. Because in vanilla, and in most mods, allies, at least in vanilla, allies end up usually having about 1,000 more factories than the Axis, which is, mathematically you don't beat it. It's just about the allies micro after then, so it's a bit about macro, but mostly about micro in the end. If it's 2 good teams, mostly against the micro. So, you're gonna definitely want to have this template if you're going medium tanks for D-Day wall. Even though you don't need the, for example, maintenance really, you don't really need the logistics. D-Day, if it goes on for a long while, the infra is gonna be gone. It's gonna be shredded. I've definitely experienced attritioning on D-Days because you have so much infantry up against them. The infrastructure is ruined. Maybe they're good allies. They bomb behind you here in this area, so the infrastructure here is damaged. Your supply doesn't go all the way. You know, you get insufficient supply. You start actually attritioning on D-Day. That is a very bad sign. So what you could do then is not have logistics in, for example. And when you see like, oh, we're gonna start attritioning, or we are attritioning, then you put it in. It takes a while to get in the template for the reinforcement rate, right? But like the reinforcements here, but it will get in, and then you should be fine. But definitely, if you want to not attrition on Russia front, you want to go as much logistics as you can. Logistics 3 is usually about as much as you make it. You can't really make it to logistics 4. It's a 45 tick. You can definitely make the 42 tick, but the 45 tick you usually have around 42 if you rush it properly. So, and by then the game, multiplayer game, is usually over. So that doesn't really matter. Yes, now it's time to go over fucking it's time to go over Grand Battle Plan. So yeah, Grand Battle Plan used to be a solid strat back in like fucking 2017, 2018-ish. Early 2018. Not anymore, definitely. You can do this sometimes for infantry. Usually it doesn't work though. Superior is the best one for infantry for pushing. This one could definitely do a good job holding ports and such, because you get a lot of good entrenchment modifiers. You can have better stats than Superior if you're fully entrenched and you're sitting there against a D-Day, for example. But here comes the bad parts, right? If you want to push anything, you want to do anything like that, you can't really do that. So the only recommendation in the Axis, for example, to go this route is maybe Italy. Romania can have awesome Marines. They shouldn't do. You also get good planning from this, but you having full planning and relying on that is not a great idea. I would say going for all the base stats in a battle where you're trying to like push out and such is better. Well, you also want to, there's two sides to this, right? So the left side is better for tanks, I'd say. You get better breakthrough planning, you get also from the left side mostly. But on the right side, you have this land night attack modifier, 25%. So what's usually gonna end up happening if you're multiplayer, you're gonna push 20 wits if you have decent infantry, right? So the 25% attack bonus on day doesn't matter. That's not gonna help you a lot. So no, during night, I mean, yeah. So it's not gonna help you a whole lot. If you meet tanks, you're gonna die anyhow. So that doesn't help you in any way, really. At least in multiplayer. From single player, this might be useful. I don't play single player myself that much, but I could imagine it could be useful. And also, here comes the most important one that is decent for the right side, I'd say. It's the supply consumption, right? So minus 10% supply consumption. You can have way more infantry, this means, but as I said, for multiplayer, you're mostly gonna be defending with Grand Battle Plan. So the supply consumption, for example, in Italy or on D-Day wall is not gonna be harsh for you while sitting on a port defending against naval invasions. So going for decent infantry anyhow and having Grand Battle Plan is not stupid. It is something that has been done, that actually still is happening. But usually it's more fun to go superior and maybe do D-Day wall still. You'll have way more fun. You get some leg infantry breakthrough and stuff here, but it's never gonna face off a tank, and you're always gonna push infantry 20 widths. That is usually gonna be seen in the multiplayer. For mass assault though, you wanna go with like 20 width, or sometimes, the combat width down here goes down by 1. Okay, I'll show you. Fair enough, I'll show you. So what you're gonna do is go down the right side, for example. That is what I'd say is the best, but some people go memes with the left side. They go it for the supply consumption, they go it for the recovery rate, for the infantry breakthrough. They go, Russians do that sometimes. You get max planning a bit more. They go for a bit of deeper defense. It's even called deep battle, so it fits it perfectly. You get supply consumption minus 10% a year and minus 10% a year, which is okay. But you also lack the combat width, right? And lack is a pretty strong word, because when you are when you are mass mob, right? If I just switch this all over to infantry, a full infantry unit, and yes, now you'll see that this is a 40 with combat width, right? So it's still 40 width, but in reality with another doctrine, this would have been a 50 width. So it brings down your combat width, so you can have more divisions in the actual stack, right? Like more battalions in the template, right? So the thing is, your stats will go up. They're more expensive to produce because a 40 with just one less row and another doctrine would have less stats, sure, but they will also be cheaper to produce. And producing a template like this is not a lot if you're Russia and you're going hard for them. That is not really a lot though. So you could definitely do these templates, and for like the 20 widths, you're actually gonna have 16 combat width. And it's not that bad, because 16 times 5, right? That is still 80 combat width. So if you have 5 of these on a tile, you'll still fill up the combat width. The problem comes in where you get a, where they attack you from the side too, and the combat width goes up by 40. Then you're gonna have an uneven combat width, get a bit of debuffs. They are pretty cheap to produce, but you could also do the same for 20 widths as you did with the 40 width one. Either go up to like a 19.2 width, or you could go up to a 20.8 width. Both of these are fine. Your stats go up a bit, but like still it's only guns in the actual like division, so guns will not bring up your stats enough. That is why just go in superior or mobile 20 widths with just tanks to push everything is usually the meta in the multiplayer. Yeah, so boys, I hope you enjoyed the little tutorial for templates. I plan on doing more of this stuff. Yeah, it's been recommended a lot, and I feel like if you guys want to know a bit more of the game, and I'm streaming or such, and you guys are like asking questions in the chat, I could just reference you guys to the YouTube channel, right? So I'll be making more of these, and as soon as you have a question in chat or whatever, I will link you the video to the actual tutorial. So for for Doctrines, this is what I've had to say for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.